Hello, hello, hello! This is Lapcat, and welcome back. I know it's been quite a while since I've posted anything, and I do apologize. Today is, February 5th? And it's the day that Trump is getting voted to be impeached or not. Well, get charged with impeachment in the Senate. So that's what I'm going to talk about. In short, I do think he should be impeached for 3 reasons. First reason is a president should not have the power to delegate official foreign duties to a non-government employee. It's a fact. We know it's true because EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland was informed that he should be receiving orders from Giuliani. That's a fact. Second reason why Trump should be impeached: a president should not have the power to one-sidedly obstruct or stop government appropriated funds for any reason. This was something that was also decided in the Nixon era, and Trump did this. He stopped and obstructed congressionally appropriated money that the president also signed off on, so it was in law. He obstructed that money for a rudimentary reason that is, by definition, against the law as found by the Government Accountability Office. I think that's what it's called. I don't know, it's like a watchdog kind of thing. And the third reason why Trump should be impeached is that a president should not have the power to refute or refuse investigation under an official impeachment by the House. This is also something we know for a fact, as the White House had publicly stated that they will not cooperate. And of some of the subpoenas that went to the White House from the House of Representatives, was rejected and or ignored by the president. So that's that. Just a direct example would be how the House had subpoenaed Gordon Sondland, and then the White House had suppressed it or stopped Sondland from appearing. This is a fact. Those 3 things combined, no, even one of those, I believe, that are impeachable. The easiest way to look at if a situation is impeachable or not is, in my mind, to look at the worst case scenario of if you allow it or not. For instance, Bill Clinton should have been impeached. He should have been removed from office. Why? Because he had sexual misconduct while performing the official duties of the president. It's a fact. We know he did it, but the Senate didn't think it was impeachable. Therefore, that means if the president gets a blowjob under the desk, that is legal. He can do that. Well, no, it might not be legal, but it's not impeachable. And a president can't be accused of a federal crime, so it's effectively legal. That's how it is now. I don't remember what it is that Andrew Johnson was getting impeached over. I think it was something about removing or changing cabinet members without congressional approval. I don't know. It's something like that. He was a pretty unpopular president as it was. In any case, I'm going to go down the more specifics of each of those 3 points in order, after having already briefed you on the 3 of them. The first one, as I had said, allowing a non-government employee to oversee or command official foreign duties. This pretty much means that the president could appoint theoretically anyone to effectively overrule Congress and the president in how America acts as a foreign power. If it's continued to be allowed, that would mean that any president going forward could really choose anyone that they want to be someone who is like a backdoor. Sorry, there is a doggo in the back of a open air truck. Well, I'm in the bed of a truck, and the doggo's just kind of looking around at all the cars. That's a doggo. I don't think it's in a cage, but I feel like it is. No, it definitely isn't. It might be on a leash, though, that's attached to something. Anyway, if this is allowed to go on, that would mean that any president going forward could appoint anyone that they choose to have a foreign policy that is not under the watch or in the public interest. Well, they could appoint anyone that they choose that is not under the watch of the government and or is not working in the public interest, but rather a personal private interest. The mere fact that ambassadors were not able to get clear communication, that there was a clear, distinct objective between the Ukrainian ambassador, Maria Yovanovitch, and the UK ambassador, Gordon Sondland. The mere fact that they did not have the same goal in general, the same idea of what America was trying to accomplish in Ukraine, is a clear indicator of the fact that there was some other foreign policy that was going on. And the mere fact that Gordon Sondland clearly stated, I was acting under orders. That means he got orders from someone, and he stated, and it's pretty unrefuted, that he was getting those orders from Rudy Giuliani. For whatever reason, Rudy Giuliani was making those orders. I don't know. Maybe it was for the president's interests. Maybe it was for Rudy's interests. But regardless, Rudy Giuliani, someone who is not accountable under the government, was making official policies, official changes. And that is not okay. The stance of America should be that decided by Congress, or at the very least the president. And that was not the case in this situation. The fact that the president was given the power to choose Rudy Giuliani to give him this power, to me, is impeachable. No president should be allowed to do that. To appoint someone into an official position that holds a significant amount of power while not being accountable to anyone. Well, maybe the president who put him there. Oh, also, as the president himself said, Rudy Giuliani has other clients, so that means we also know he has foreign connections. So, conflict of interest? Again, not accountable to the government. That, in my opinion, should be impeachable. It's a big problem, really. Sorry, I get rather heated. I feel like it has to... It's definitely not okay. Like, even President Obama's order about DACA is not okay. It's the power to establish an agency that supersedes Congress's stance on immigration. That's not okay. I don't think it's okay. I thoroughly believe that the power of Congress should and is more powerful than the president. After all, it's Article 1. The president is Article 2. Just mere math. Well, I guess in this case, every other legal scholar would say that a preceding article supersedes a succeeding article. I think that I wanted to bring up the ability to stop or obstruct monies appropriated by Congress and the federal government that at the very least is signed into law. The president did this. We know he did this. We know it's illegal. It was illegal at the time of Nixon, and it's illegal now. Oh, there's a car there on the on-ramp. Move back over. The ability to stop or obstruct money on a whim is a major problem. This could imply that any president could just stop the war in Iraq very easily. It's simple. You cut all military funding. That's it. That's all you have to do. And then suddenly we're not in a war anymore. Because if you have no military, you can't be in a war. Because either you lose or you surrender. Kind of like what we did with Vietnam. Even though that we're more powerful and have more money, we still effectively lost. But continuing on that same train of thought, because we know that the president did obstruct the money going to Ukraine. This did happen. We know it's a fact. And so allowing the president to do that for the future means that any president can stop federal money from going somewhere if they think there's an appropriate reason. And in this case, the appropriate reason was suspected corruption of a known political adversary. Regardless of if it was the same party or not, it's still a fact that he was trying to investigate Burisma. He was under the claim of suspecting corruption, but anytime you're suspecting corruption but only look at one company, that's pretty weird. So I don't think it was really for corruption, but I'm going to ignore that and look purely at the fact that he stopped the money from going on his own command and as a secret from from both Ukraine and the Ukrainian ambassador and Congress. He didn't tell anyone. That's a fact. Only a few people knew, like Gordon Sondland, Rudy Giuliani. The reason why I keep mentioning Gordon Sondland is because he was one of the people that were directly involved in the affair, and there was no communication between the House and the other two members of that group, to my knowledge. In any case, the president being able to do this would imply that he's able to obstruct other money going into the future under a Republican president or Democrat. It effectively means that the president can supersede Congress's ability to appropriate funds. Sorry, I was adjusting my air conditioner. Since if Congress is the one who puts out the money, and the president says it's okay, which is how funds are usually appropriated, and then the president also has the power to suddenly stop that money, that means that Congress only has the ability to say, we should put that money there. That doesn't mean it will go there. And that could be a big problem. That would mean that the president could one-sidedly stop funding for any agency, organization, or department that he chooses on his whim. So that means there could suddenly be no more Social Security, no more military, no more welfare, no more infrastructure. Maybe he could just stop NASA. And it could be for a rudimentary reason such as corruption or suspicions or rumors. The ability to set a vague notion of the power to obstruct money appropriated by Congress is problematic. The reason why I say it's ambiguous is for what I had mentioned just a bit ago, going on to the fact that if you're investigating corruption, you investigate the whole idea of corruption. You do not target a very specific group and a very specific person, because that's weird. For instance, if you're trying to investigate the mafia for being the mafia, do you look at a single laundromat that you think that they might be in control of? Or do you try to look at all of their properties that they're in control of? Simple as that. The mere fact that Trump was looking at, in using this analogy, was looking at that single laundromat means that he was trying to target the laundromat, not root out corruption. Lastly, the third point, the president's ability to refuse the investigation of the House. You might not think that's a big deal. You might think that every president should be able to do that. And every president can. Well, think about it this way. Impeachment is the sole power against the president. It is something mandated in the Constitution that dictates that the House can charge and then the Senate convicts on the matter of impeachment. That means only the House can charge, which means only the House can do the preliminary investigations, depending on how you want to even think about the matter. But I will think about it from the perspective that Republicans are taking in the situation of Trump's trial and investigation. For one part, every investigation will be partisan because no party will usually actively work against their own president. That's kind of weird. And sorry if ambient noise gets a lot worse now. I'm on a bit of a rough road. So every investigation is partisan. An investigation can start for any reason. It just has to follow the rules of the House, which means there's no such thing as a hoax impeachment. Because if the House says that there's impeachment, there is an impeachment. If the House rules say that all it takes is for one member of the House to want an impeachment to start an impeachment, then that's the rule, and there's now an impeachment. There are no rules, as dictated by the Constitution, about what constitutes a fair investigation. It doesn't have to be fair. And due to the ambiguity of the situation, the House should have the power to overrule the president. That's the whole power of impeachment, to override the president. So the president being able to stop an investigation or stop people from investigating him, which is kind of what he did by refusing subpoenas, refusing to cooperate, and whatnot, would imply that, in short, the House will never end up with sufficient evidence. What do you think that means? Well, using the analogy of a police investigator for a criminal charge, because that's what this kind of situation is. It's not civil, because civil and criminal trials are very different. A criminal investigator, if he doesn't have sufficient evidence, he can't bring a charge, which means that the criminal, whether or not they did commit the crime, gets away scot-free. There's no penalty, there's nothing to it. Continuing, say that it did go to a trial. For one thing, every impeachment trial has had witnesses before this. Both the Clinton and the Andrew Johnson trials both had witnesses. So this is the first impeachment trial without witnesses, by the way. What does it mean for the Senate to think that they're not with the power to investigate. That means A, they do not have the power to call witnesses, which is already disproven by the first two cases. Second, this sets the precedent that should the party in power wish the president not be impeached, they can effectively stop more evidence coming forward. The Senate dictating the power of investigation lies with the House, means that the House has to declare that they're sending a subpoena and work through the courts to enforce it. By the way, one of the most hotly contested things in the courts is which one is stronger, a House investigation or executive privilege. No court will want to rule on this, as it will change American history going forward. And no court will really theoretically want to drag it out as long as possible. Why? Simple. The judicial system is in the power of the executive branch, which means every federal judge will very likely rule in favor of the president, unless the Supreme Court directly takes it up. By the way, the Supreme Court does not have to rule on things immediately. They also do not conform and act like a normal court. They act more like an appeals court, wherein they only hear the arguments and then they look at all the previous documents that have already been submitted in the previous cases. Which means you don't argue, you don't come forward and present new evidence. That's just not something you do. They take whatever is present and then act on it. Which means, at minimum, should the House push their subpoena to the courts, it should take no less than a year. Minimum. And very likely it should take 3, or it will supersede the terms and then become a moot point wherein it's dropped entirely. That's why the House didn't enforce their subpoenas. It's because the amount of time it would take for it to go through the courts would drag on beyond the time frame, which would make it effectively the judge would just declare it dead and drop the point entirely, since it's no longer relevant, because that's what judges can do. And that's why I said it should take years, because no side will want to give up on the matter, so it will at least end in the Supreme Court, and whether or not the Supreme Court takes it up directly is not likely. And since the Senate had decided that it was up to the House to investigate, and the House could not investigate because it would take too long, then that means no one can investigate, because it's just a circle. Because the House basically said that it's up to the Senate to push and enforce the investigation, because they would have the power to do that. That means that the president can't be investigated at all. The only powers that Congress has against the president are laws, which the president can veto, a censure, which doesn't do anything, it's just Congress saying that they don't like what the president has done, a resolution, which can be a law, but most of the times it's Congress, it's basically just another censure, but it can become a law. And impeachment, that's it. Impeachment is the sole power that Congress has that actually punishes the president. And by the way, it doesn't convict of a crime, it just removes from office. It's like someone being fired for not doing their job well, or doing something they should not have done. which is why Clinton could have been impeached. Because sexual misconduct in the office, in the workspace, is illegal in every other instance. But not if you're the president. See? It's pretty weird, right? And the idea of, well, every impeachment is undoing an election. That's the literal definition of an impeachment, basically. It's to take away that person's job, where an election is to give that person a job. So, yeah, it's literally to undo an election. And to think that you should not impeach someone because an election is close. Let's think about the worst case scenario. Let's say a president, not Trump or anyone else, commits a super heinous crime. For instance, establishes martial law on an elementary school, and then he personally walks in, murders 30 elementary kids, mutilates the corpses, rapes the bodies, and then consumes them in cannibalism. 4 weeks before the election. Should he get impeached? Yes. But going by this instance, it's so close to an election, just let the people decide. That's not valid. There are just some things that you have to get impeached over, no matter how close an election is. Trying to consider the situation that an election is too close is another way of saying it's okay. Because that's what you are saying. Because the president could cover it up. It could become silent. No one could have to know about the matter. Or his supporters would believe that it was a hoax by the other party and vote for him anyway. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. All it matters is what is believed. It's already proof enough that both the right and left, liberals and conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, both are wrong about reality when it comes to their partisanship. Both sides are wrong about the income gap, about what percentage of Americans are, well, what percentage of the economy that the super wealthy possess, how much the super wealthy are actually taxed, how many Muslims are a part of immigrants, and just things like that. By the way, the percentage that super wealthy possess over the economy, it's about 32%. The amount that the super wealthy are taxed is about 37.5%. The amount of Muslims as a part of immigrants is about 1 in 10. The amount of immigrants in the working economy is about 12%. So yeah, both sides will massively overestimate a situation, and both sides want to just believe their figurehead. And true, I do have a personal vendetta against Trump. But you want to know why? It's simple. He voted on the premise of draining in the swamp. I believe he walked in and said, "Damn, this is a nice place." We're getting more partisan every year. Every week is infrastructure week, right? Neither side will dare pass a bill on it because Democrats want to focus more on healthcare, and the Republicans don't want to increase the debt or increase spending at all. So that's that. Like I said, I believe Trump should be impeached for those three matters. Going over them briefly again. The president should not have the power to appoint a non-government employee to oversee official foreign duties. A president should not have the power to obstruct or stop congressionally or federally appropriated funds. And a president should not have the power to refute or refuse investigation under impeachment. So yeah, those are the three things. With that, whether you've enjoyed the show or not, I'm glad you even stayed tuned till the end. If you have anything you'd like to say, by all means, please go down to the comments below and tell me what's on your mind. Tell me how I'm wrong or tell me how I'm right. Leave a like or even a dislike if you got to. It helps more than you know. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. This has been Lapcat. Thanks for watching. Hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.